What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Jenks Island podcast, the only podcast where you can get your takes from a washed-up Division III corner. And in this episode, we're breaking down the Saints' brutal loss to the previously 1-7 Panthers, the worst team in the league. And now that title might belong to the Saints after losing 7 straight and falling to 2-7 with Dennis Allen as their head coach. The Saints lose to the Panthers 23-22 in a game where the defense couldn't get a stop towards the end of the game, and then the offense just collapsed. The offensive play calling collapsed, and the confidence in the coaches just looked to fade away. So let me explain my thoughts on this game. So first of all, in the first quarter, Chris Olave goes down after a high pass that Derek Carr threw on a post route. Looked to be cover 3. The corners on the outside leverage. The safety is coming over to help from the middle of the field. And people are going to talk about this ball for weeks to come. Olave comes across. Derek Carr throws it to him. And it's about 2 feet over his head. Chris Olave jumps and he gets nailed, absolutely destroyed by the safety. I think the safety did see that pass get dropped, and he still decided to duck his shoulder into Chris Olave high up into his chest and head area. And Chris Olave, with a poor concussion history, looked immediately to get knocked out cold, and he was obviously concussed the minute that hit happened. And the tough thing with this play is, yes, Derek Carr did throw a hospital ball there. Would I consider it a hospital ball 10 times out of 10? No, because here's my thoughts. It was the right decision for Derek Carr to throw that ball on that play. The only issue was the location of the pass. He should have thrown it low. Either make Olave roll for the pass or make him dive where he's out of the way of injury. On that play, throwing it up high, Chris Olave jumping and then running forward after jumping and missing the ball leads him right into that safety, and it was a brutal injury, brutal hit. That should never have happened if Derek Carr made the smart play and threw it low like he should have. And then immediately after that, Michael Thomas goes on an absolute rampage. Absolute rampage. I'm going to quote his tweets really quick. Derek Carr, for you, I've been told y'all shit sad. Middle finger emoji. Dude, scary and panic and just throw the ball. Get him the F out of here. He's so ass. Dude tried to lie and say I was jealous of them, making Chris wide receiver 1 whole time, and he can't even get him a decent ball. His ass needs to be whooped. They fired all them coaches trying to cover his flaws up. He's still doing the same shit. Even Mexico knows what's up. Not sure where this was taken, but he shows a video of a guy where he even says, Derek Carr sucks ass. Then, that year his buddy went first team All-Pro in 2022. He needed 180 targets just to catch 100 passes. He is ass, in reference to Devontae Adams and Derek Carr's season in 2022. Then he retweets Josh Olave tweeting, bro just called, he's up and active. And previously before that, Josh Olave also said that it's not worth Olave to return to this team in New Orleans. Then Michael Thomas says, God don't like ugly. Then we see Lonnie Johnson, damn, DA fit to go to Denver, ain't it? And it was just a whole spew of reactions and comments on Twitter that showed Michael Thomas is not on the Saints for one reason, and it's because he hates DA and he hates Derek Carr. That's it. If that wasn't true, he would likely be on this team, but he hates both of those guys, and you can see it with these tweets. On top of that, Alvin Kamara had a great game today. He rushed for 155 yards and had 60 reception yards. That's ridiculous. You come into this game, tell me Alvin Kamara does that, I'm like, oh yeah, we whooped the Panthers. Whooped them. And he does both those things, and you still lose. And that brings me right to my third conversation is Alvin Kamara is rushing all over the Panthers. Taysom Hill rushing all over the Panthers. Every single time he gets the ball, he seems to be pushing for an extra 2-3 yards after contact. And when you get to 4th and 1, fourth quarter, and you're at midfield, and you decide to just try to draw him off sides, then punt, it proves to me that DA, you have no confidence in this team. You're not playing to win. You're playing scared to lose. And it also shows me that Clint Kubiak isn't confident. He didn't go over to DA and say, no, I know we can get this first down. Both of them, their heads are in their asses. I have no confidence in either of them as head coaches or offensive coordinators. Then 4th and 4, season on the line, game on the line, DA's coaching job most likely on the line, and Clint Kubiak draws up 4 verts basically. Yes, Juwan Johnson runs an option route over the middle. It's either an out or a slant. There's a middle linebacker sitting on the slant, sitting on it. And behind it, you don't have a slant running with Juwan or with Cedric Wilson behind it to get, as soon as that corner that's on Juwan Johnson follows him, that slant, if Cedric Wilson runs a slant, is most likely open. But instead, they run a fade with him, a swing pass with Kamara, and then a fade on the other outside route. I wasn't sure who was running that because, again, all of our receivers are hurt. So I'm not really sure who was on receiver outside that time. So it was terrible play calling. On 4th and 4, you either run 4 slants, a quick route somewhere, and you run more quick routes than they did. If you have one quick route on 4th and 4, and if it's covered, you're just, oh, shit, throw it up. That's not a good play call. And Kamara on his route, the route that he's designed to run, that he's following, that I get that, we're short of sticks as well. So even if he gets the ball, he has to break a couple tackles, get the first down. Why not run a Texas route with him, an out route with Juwan, and then a fade route on the outside with Cedric Wilson? That way you're getting Juwan on the outside, one-on-one, possibly he gets open. Or you get Alvin Kamara on the middle linebacker to run an option route. He can either follow Juwan outside or run an angle route inside. What are we doing? Terrible play design with 4th and 4, game on the line. And also the coaching to get to that point. We had one timeout going into the 4th quarter. One timeout in a close game. And you burn one where you're at the goal line, 12 men on defense. It's a half-yard penalty if you lose it. A half yard instead you burn a timeout. Why? You really think that half yard is going to make that big of a difference with the defense that we currently have? No, it's not. They're getting that. Just frustrating coaching and frustrating decisions as a team for the Saints. Then towards the end of the game, something I didn't like coming in as a factor in this game were the penalties. First 3 quarters weren't that bad. 4th quarter, holding calls start coming up left and right for the Saints. And there were a few where I'm like, why is this getting called? Because the Panthers were holding almost every single play in the 4th quarter as I'm watching. I'm like, they're not calling those. So why are you calling them on the Saints? I wouldn't mind if they go both ways perfectly fine. If both teams are playing grabby and you're not calling it, I don't mind. But if you're going to call it one team and not the other, that's where there's an issue. Then you call pass interference on Demario Davis where there's a play. He didn't contact the guy. He put his hand straight up, but he didn't turn around. But he didn't hit him. Jatavion Sanders could have jumped back into him and made it look worse, and he didn't do that, and they still called it PI. That was questionable. As a cornerback, I know what PI is, and that wasn't it. They haven't called that on a lot of guys this year. And you want to know why I know that? Because on 4th and 4, when they throw it up to Cedric Wilson, the Panthers DB does the same thing. Barely turns his head, and then runs directly into Cedric Wilson early. They could have called that, but they didn't. So whatever selection process these refs are making and within their minds to make these calls did not make sense. And that's what I have an issue with. And the final real note that I have in this one, this tweet is amazing. Bill Barnwell, Saints outgained the Panthers by 150 plus yards, ran for 150 plus yards, and won the turnover battle. And guess what? Over the last 20 years, teams had gone 275-0 with that formula. Guess who does one loss? The Dennis Allen-led Saints. And if that doesn't ring all sorts of bells that, hey, we might have to fire this coach, you're never going to fire him. They're not firing him this year if they don't fire him after this game. Dennis Allen 100% deserves to be fired after this game. And if he's not, I might show up to the Thursday episode with a bag over my head that says fire DA because it deserves it. He deserves it. The Saints season has sucked. We've gone from 2-0 with the highest possible momentum in the league to going 2-7 due to a few injuries. Yes, there are major injuries on this team, but you could have won the Chargers game with some better coaching last week. And maybe Derek Carr coming back. Derek Carr was out. Spencer Rattler, Jake Haener, they're not the future, but they need some development. And then maybe they could be serviceable quarterbacks. This game, 100% due to coaching. 100%. I have no problem saying it's due to coaching. Derek Carr, yes, did not have a great game, was very rusty to start, and Olave went down at the beginning. But towards the end of this game, you have better coaching, better play calling, things like that, you can 100% win. So anyways, I think this was a rough loss for the Saints. The Saints season is over. We should be looking forward to mock drafts and start watching college football, guys, because we got to figure out who the hell we want to pick. So keep an eye out. Next episode will be out on Thursday morning. It'll be week 10 picks and predictions. I look forward to it. See you guys. Who dat as always. And it was a rough loss, Saints fans, but I'll keep my head up and hopefully we beat the Falcons next week. I can't stomach a loss to them. But other than that, I see us losing out.